Hello guys. I thought I'd just make a quick video to go over your syllabus. We will not be doing this on the first day of class, just to utilize our time a little bit better and get through some of the material you missed due to last week's hurricane. So let's talk a little bit about how the class is put together, and then we'll go into the actual syllabus. So if you go into your D2L class, you should notice that this is essentially what your class looks like. You'll notice there's an overview tab here, and it'll just tell you really quick, welcome to the class, and that I'm your instructor and I'm really excited, and you should start going over your information in Unit 1. If you go down to the side here on the left side, you'll notice all the information you need for the entire semester. Now, this is kind of what it looks like for me, so I'm going to view it as a student. So of course, this is your home page here, and you can go and hit the start button or the content button. Let me hit the start button right here. Of course, you see what you just saw a moment ago. Now, at the beginning of this class, tomorrow when we go over this, you're going to be going over Unit 1 and Unit 2 in class. How I'm going to set it up is I'm going to start over Unit 1, and then we'll go over Unit 2, and whatever we don't get finished with in Unit 2, I am going to make a video at the end of the week for you to watch. And then we should be all caught up with everything that we need. So that's how this week's going to work. Now, after that week, I will be making about 20 to 30 minute videos for you to view before you come to class and answer some questions on. So you'll want to start looking for those every Friday. Anyway, let me go here to course introduction. Of course, the welcome, I sent you a welcome video about a week and a half ago. I will be placing this here tonight so that you can review that if you like. The second tab here is the syllabus. If you notice, I've put a syllabus here so that you can easily download it and print it. You'll want to print this out yourself because I will not provide one of these. The only thing that I'm going to provide is a sign sheet that verifies that you've read the syllabus and agree to the terms of the syllabus. If you don't agree with the terms of the syllabus, you need to make an appointment within 24 hours of the first class and come talk to me, and we can sit down and discuss the parts that you don't agree with, and we'll kind of go over that and come to some kind of conclusion. Here you'll notice that the hotspot, that's the tutoring center. And so on here, I will be putting up the hotspot times when you can get help for tutoring. I should have this up by about week 2 or 3. The up-to-date schedule isn't there currently. And then, of course, you're going to have opportunities to do some extra credit, and I will go over that in a different video. I will post that video next week. So, and then if you look to the left here, you'll notice Unit 1, Unit 2. Any of these you go onto, you can find all the information you need. I have great videos if you're having some problems understanding the core concepts of the lecture we go over. There are plenty of videos here for you to watch on your own time, conveniently placed. And it will allow you, especially if it's right before the exam, if there's something that you quite don't understand, you can go back and view those videos to kind of get a greater understanding of those concepts you may have missed during class. All your PowerPoints are here. Those PowerPoints you will need to print out to take notes on. I'll be checking to make sure that people bring those every week. And also, you'll want these assignments, you're going to want to print those out. These are assignments that you're going to work on in class. So basically how the class is going to be set up, that I'm going to do about 30 to 35 minutes of the lecture, sometimes maybe a tad longer or shorter, online. It's the introductory part. It's the easy part at the beginning. And I'm going to require you watch those, and then I'm going to put questions after it, essentially anywhere from 10 to 20 questions that you're going to have to answer before class. And then you're going to come into class, and then we're going to start the lecture after. So the PowerPoint's going to include those slides that are going to be on these pre-lectures that I'm going to post up. And then I will just go straight into the lecture there. What that's going to do is that's going to allow you to do some prep work at home to get ready for what we're about to do. And then that's going to free up some time in class that we can actually have fun doing some hands-on kind of things. You're going to work with groups, asking or answering questions, doing kind of cutout assignments, doing case studies, things that are more applied that would be harder for you to do at home. Listening to a lecture and answering some simple questions from that lecture is pretty straightforward stuff. So I want to utilize some of that stuff at home. And you're going to really thank me in the long run for this, because this is going to allow you to see how much of the material you truly understand in class from the lecture at home and the lecture in class. And then I'm going to be able to help you hands-on to try to figure out where some of those misunderstandings could be. So that's how the semester is going to work. So you should be printing these two things out. Now, the great thing is I don't have any online homework due with this class, which I'm going to provide. You can buy the online book, or I can provide you an alternative book that is not specifically for this class, but it gives you and covers information over biology, so it can make it a little bit cheaper. I know some people are having problems with having to replace things that they've lost at home. So in that case that you don't quite have the money for the book, I'm going to give you an alternative source, but it's not the official book for this class. So you will need to go through it and figure out what chapters are associated with the chapters that I've placed for the official book. But with that being said, that's going to free up some money for you to be able to print out the stuff that's important, as in the PowerPoint lecture and these worksheets that I provide you. If you don't have these worksheets on you, a good portion of the class is going to be absolutely useless to you. And a lot of these you can't just write on a piece of paper, because some of them you're going to actually be cutting stuff out and pasting and taping stuff. So keep that in mind as you go through. Look over each one and kind of get an idea to see, do I really need to print this assignment out this week, or can I use a sheet of paper, or vice versa? I would just tell you print it all out, because that's the best. Now on here, you'll notice after week 4, we have our first lecture exam. And if you go over here, you'll notice that there's a review for exam 1. I don't do reviews for every single exam. I do an extensive review for the first exam. If you click on that guy, you'll see I go under, so Unit 1, define biology, know the characteristics of life, and be able to example each. And you'll notice through each unit, I give you specifically what you need to know by either giving you specific questions or giving you terms for which you should be able to define, and not define in the simple sense as in memorizing what a definition is, but being to define what it truly is. If I give you something that's not straight definition, but an applied example, you should be able to know that as well. And so if you look through this, you'll notice that it is very, very, very detailed. Now you'll come down here and you'll notice under exam 2, there's another review, and you'll click on that. And you'll notice for this, it says Unit 5, you do this part of the review, and then as you go through, you'll notice the rest of it's kind of detailed. Not all of it, but in general. And so if you notice this is where I'm getting you to try to learn how to make reviews. So Unit 5 is the first one. You have plenty of time to work on this over the 4 weeks that we're doing, or the 3 additional weeks that we're doing other material. So you, as soon as you get done with Unit 5, go in there and start doing that review, and you can come to my office hours or schedule office hours if you can't make it during the times I have provided. And I'll go over this and tell you whether or not this is a good review, or what you should take out and what you should add. With that being said, if you go through here, you'll notice there are no more lecture reviews, because at this point, I've given you an example of a thorough review. I've done half the work for you in exam 2. Exam 3, you provide an entire review yourself, and you can hand it in to me or have a meeting with me, and I will give you advice on what you should take out or what you should add. And exam 4, you are completely on your own. At this point, I'm not going to help with verifying your review. At this point, I should have given you enough help for you to be able to structure a very well formatted, very informational review. So my point in this class is not just to teach you biology. It's not just to help you become a kind of firm introductory scientist. It's for me to help you essentially become a well-informed student. And to be a well-informed student, you really need to learn how to make reviews. And so that's the purpose of my format there. So let's go back to content. And with that being said, it should make the review go, or the syllabus review go much quicker. So we are in Biology 1408. That's Biology 1 for non-science majors. My name is Heather L. Brazier. You can call me Dr. B for short. You can find my office on the 7th floor in room 730. This is in building 12. So if you go up the elevators, take a right out of the elevators, and that's building 12. And I'm right around on the right-hand side. My office hours are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 11 a.m. and Wednesdays from 11 to 12. And Wednesdays, I will not be in my office. I'll actually be in the hotspot. Now, I do realize all those times are either mid to late morning or kind of falling into the afternoon time. If you can't fit into any of these times, you just email me and we can discuss times that I can meet outside. I will meet people by appointment. It's just these are the most convenient times for me with my schedule. But I always want to make sure that students have access to me. So you can, like I said, email me or text me and we can schedule an appointment outside these times. Now, I did say text because if you notice, I give you my office number. Please don't call my office or line number. The chances of you actually hearing back from me on that number is pretty slim. It's not because I'm trying to be disrespectful. It's just it's a landline and I'm not in my office a whole lot. So I'm not always really good at checking that. They do send me emails that give me the voice recording and everything else, but it's just much faster if you text me your problem. So especially considering I normally have my cell phone on me. So if you use the phone number 409-392-5787, you can text me and ask any questions that you have. Please do not call this number. I do not answer phone numbers from anybody that I don't know. So it's just going to go to voicemail and I will not call you back on that number, but I will always text. Now, besides texting, the recommended mode of communication, just for your record in mind, is for you to go through the D2L email account. So this is the online where your course is actually established. Please, please do not email me at my lonestar.edu account. I get anywhere from a measly 10 emails a day to somewhere up to about 35 or more. And so sometimes I'll notice on here that students' emails get lost. They also sometimes can push to this kind of hidden special account that I'm not sure how to access. So the most direct means of communication for me is to go through my D2L. The only people emailing me at the D2L account are students. So it makes it much easier for me to see your emails. And I do check that multiple times a day. This is a fall 2017, and we will be meeting Mondays for lecture 11:15 to 2:15, and Wednesdays for lab 11:15 to 2:15. We will be going through on Wednesday the appropriate lab attire, but I will let you know right now, and I will remind you, actually, this should say Tuesday, Thursday. I'm sorry about that. I will remind you tomorrow that you should have appropriate lab wear on Thursday. And that means everything needs to go below your knee. You have to have arms covered, your hair pulled back, and closed-toed shoes. Those are the most important things. So keep that in mind when you get dressed on Thursday. But I will see you tomorrow. And I will see you in 12-629. So this is on the 6th floor. Go up the elevators and to the right. Again, that's the 12th building. And you'll find it right around on the right-hand side. The lab is 13.509, which you're going to go to the 5th floor on that one, up the elevators and to the left. And it's way down almost to the end of the hallway. Now you can read basically the course description, but this is introductory biology. We're going to talk about the nature of science. And just to let you know, this is going to get into the very tiny part of biology, the part for which you cannot visualize. So we're going to talk a lot about molecular biology, biochemistry. We're going to talk about how your body's metabolism functions. We're going to talk about viruses. We're going to talk about how you pass genes on. So we're at no point going to do any dissections in this class. Anything that deals with organismal biology, which is what most people think biology is, that's for part 2. In this, we are going to be dealing with a lot of chemistry. So keep that in mind. And that tells you the student learner outcomes is a set of outcomes written by a group of scientists and implemented through the state of Texas. So everything, for the most part, that I teach in the course is state mandated. Now, you will need you will need officially mastering biology and your book. Now, unofficially, I can tell you, we are not going to use any internet component because of the fact that I am doing an assignment that is going to have you do some online features itself. So, officially, Campbell Essentials Biology with Physiology is the book that represents this course. And most instructors use Mastering Biology, and this is the first semester that I'm going to try to use this class and utilize something outside Mastering to kind of teach you a few concepts that I think will be interesting or nice added addition to the course. So when you're in class tomorrow, I will tell you what book you can look for that's a good supplement to this class if you can't afford to get that right now. Now, the book that's absolutely required that you cannot just not buy is the lab manual. And you can find it online, and it looks something like this, and it's a blue cover, and it's for both semesters. Now, if you go into the bookstore, you can find it a little bit cheaper because it's been kind of cut down to be specifically for University Park students. So it's a custom manual, so you can save a little bit of money. And if you're only taking part 1, they have it for just Biology 1406, 1408. So you are going to have that, and you should really have it by Thursday. If you need one more day, please email and let me know. But you'll need to start filling stuff out so that you can study for your lab test. Now, attendance is mandatory. You need to be logging into D2L weekly, and you're expected to attend each lecture and laboratory session. I take roll, and I do give a little bit of participation points in the lecture class because I will be doing a lot of computer-related activities where you have to answer questions throughout the lab, and that you'll be doing these hands-on assignments that you have to let me check before you leave every week. So I will be attributing some to actually doing your work. You can't just show up and sit there and look at me and get those points. You're actually going to have to be actively involved in the class. You also need to be actively involved and come to every laboratory session. It is impossible for you to make a really good grade on your lab exams if you have no idea what we've done and what the outcomes are for our laboratory assignments. So you need to be there every week, and I'm going to show you how the grading works specifically for that. Now, I would suggest everybody get to class about 5 minutes before class starts so that you can get everything out, have your book if you want to bring it, have your PowerPoint notes, your activities out, and any kind of pencils or pens that you need just to be ready. If you miss a lecture class, you are required to get any missed information from fellow students. I don't have time to meet with every single student to update them on a 3-hour lab lecture class. So please keep that in mind. If you just have 1 or 2 questions, that's a completely different scenario. But if you're like, hey, Dr. B, I need help. What did I miss last week? I'll say, look at your syllabus. That tells you the unit. Look on D2L. That gives you the PowerPoint. And talk to your fellow students about the information that I supplemented with the PowerPoint notes, because not everything's in those notes. but I just don't have time to provide everything to every single student that misses. If you're late for lab, it can be a problem. I consider you late after 15 minutes. Now, this doesn't mean that after 15 minutes, if you're going to be late, don't come. I would always suggest you come because the information you can get in the class itself is going to mediate out any points that you lose for being tardy. Especially if it's in the lab class, for which I said you need to actually witness the outcome of the lab and take those pictures so that you can study for the lab exam. So, and if you're late or you're going to be late one time, this is not what I'm talking about having problems with. Everybody gets in traffic where there's a wreck. Everybody ends up having a sick kid sooner or later. Everybody ends up having to take their little brother or sister to school because their parents can't. Those kind of situations that happen from time to time, that's not what I'm talking. You're not going to lose points if you're a student that comes repeatedly on time all the time, and then you just have these situations that come out of nowhere. This is for the people that come late every single day. It will hurt your grade, and it can drop students a whole letter grade, especially when it comes to lab, because I will not accept you have to turn in information at the beginning of class, and it has to be there within the first 5 minutes of class. If you don't have it there, I don't care if you did it or not, it will not be accepted if you are a habitual tardy. If it's every once in a while, one situation here, and you have documented proof, that's fine. But I do not have time for habitual tardies, so keep that in mind. It's being disrespectful if you're late every week, because you're not only taking away time that you can learn the information, but we are evolutionarily created to look into a direction when you hear noise. It helps keep us safe, right? At one point in time, it was possible if you heard a sound on the right-hand side, it could be a bear chasing you and going to eat you for lunch. So it's the idea, you open the door late and I'm talking and telling people either about, mitochondria, or I'm explaining the steps of the lab. And everybody, for that moment, including myself, we're all going to stop and look at you. And that's going to disrupt the flow. And it's going to disrupt, especially if someone has ADD or ADHD. It's going to essentially cause them issue, and it's going to take them longer to try to get back into the groove of focusing. So please keep this in mind when you're doing this. And if you come in late for lab, I will not explain all the steps that I just explained. So you will need to talk to your group. And if you do that repeatedly, they will get tired of dealing with it. So keep that in mind and be nice about it. So the lecture grade, how it's put together, essentially you have 620 point sets, kind of sectioned or siphoned off for lecture. 400 points of that is going towards your lecture exam. You have 4 lecture exams for the course. And you can see that I have subdivided. Your first lecture exam covers units 1 through 4. Your second unit exam is units 5 through 8. Your third, unit 9 through 11. And your fourth is 12 through 14. Now, if you notice, I have units and then the title represents the subject matter. I don't do my course based on chapters. Now, when we get into the actual tentative schedule, I will show you what chapters are associated with what units. But I like to put course material together that makes sense. So some of this, for instance, when we get into inheritance, we are going to have multiple chapters associated with inheritance because Mendelian inheritance works well to discuss with non-Mendelian inheritance versus doing it different chapters. So keep that in mind when you go through. Now, and if you notice on here, I do not drop any of the lecture exams. So make sure that you're working really hard on each, and each one of those is worth 100 points. Now you are going to have a social media group project. This is worth 100 points, so equivalent to 1 exam. And you're going to be assigned a group project where you will select a unit from the outline, and then you're going to pick a scientist associated with the subject matter in that unit. So for instance, if you decided, I kind of like DNA structure and replication and organization, then you're going to go over that and you're going to go, okay, so the subjects involved in that is actually looking at how DNA was discovered, what the DNA structure looks like, how we make new DNA, and once it's made, how is it packaged? And then you're going to look in all those chapters related to those subject or anything you can look on the internet and find a scientist. And a scientist can be an MD. It can be anything in the realm of that unit that discovered something novel about it. And then what you're going to do with that scientist, your group is going to create a Facebook profile pretending to be them. Now, under there, you're going to put their name. For instance, if you did Rosalind Franklin, you're going to put thing under that, Rosalind Franklin, biology 1408 class. So everybody knows, though she's dead, that this is not really her, right? Especially if it's someone, the reason why I say you want to do that is if it's someone that's still alive, you want people to know if they go later to search it, which is, I would make this profile hidden and then give me access to it so I could see it. And then you are going to document their lives and accomplishments as if they were on Facebook right now. So if they discovered something cool, you're going to post stuff showing them with their family. You're going to post stuff showing them at work. And you're going to update and you're going to teach us about their lives through Facebook updates and posts and pictures. And then all the group in its entirety is going to actually present their scientists during the unit that's associated with their specific, during the class period for which we're going to talk over that unit. So with that being said, unless you have been approved, you need to get in what unit you want to do immediately, because I'm only letting one group do each unit, right? Unless something happens where we fall kind of late on time, but that's kind of how it's going to work right now. So, and just to let you know, the grade for this is going to be composed of partial part of it is me. Another part is going to be the class. So you want to make it somewhat exciting and you want to have your class presentation together so that you kind of are very fluent while you go through it and it just kind of flows very well. And then, of course, your other group members are going to grade you, because if you didn't do any work, then they're going to essentially let me know that and they're going to give you a part of your grade. So keep that in mind. Now, within the class, we're going to have 110 points. That's going to be related to pop quiz, class, and online assignments. For the most part of this, it's going to be a combination between in class, the assignments we do, or you might get a Plickr or Poll Anywhere. These are things that you answer on your telephone or on a computer. Plickers, I'm going to hand you those. Those are little pieces of paper that you'll answer questions with. And these are going to be kind of embedded into the class. We're not going to do this the first day because we're getting used to everything, but we're definitely going to do this starting next week. And of course, if I can tell people aren't doing what they're supposed to, I can also do pop quizzes for this. So keep in mind and make sure that you're reading or watching the videos I place online and doing those quizzes. And the last part is going to be your laboratory grade, worth 240 points. 140 points is your daily lab grade. So essentially, you're going to have it's 10 points for each lab. There's 14 labs, because there's 14 units, basically. And 7 points of your 10 points is going to be you're in class, you're actively participating, you're helping people. Your other 3 points are going to be going and getting the review and answering and making a PowerPoint, turning it in the next week. So let me stress that just not doing that 3 points every week can very easily drop you almost a letter grade. So make sure that you're doing those every week. They're easy points. And then, of course, your final exam is comprehensive, and it will cover all material in the lecture course, of course. That's worth 150 points. For makeup policy for the social media group project, you're given ample time to complete and submit the Facebook portion of your group. You'll know based on what unit you want to do when it's due by. So if you miss the presentation project portion of your project and you turn in the Facebook portion, you'll get partial credit. But if you do not turn in the Facebook portion of it, you won't get credit for that. So there's basically two parts of this. There's the Facebook portion of it, and there's the actual class participation portion of it. And I'll give you a rubric next week for this. And you have a time restriction. You are going to present this during the first 15 minutes of the class period for that topic. So if your group is late to class, you will not be able to do this. So keep that in mind. I only administer the exams one time per semester. There are no retakes. If you know you're going to be late or unable to take the exam, please let me know beforehand and we can schedule another time for you to do that. It's at my discretion if you'll be allowed to take a makeup exam. Essentially, if you are, due to whatever emergency, and it's up to me because essentially there are no retakes, it will be a harder exam. It will be almost completely essay. So keep that in mind. And you'll only be able to get this opportunity one time for one semester exam. If you miss more than one exam, then you'll receive zeros for the remaining. And that same idea applies for the final exam as well. Labs, if you're going to miss a lab session, you need to let me know ahead of time. And what we will try to do, because I don't teach any more sections of this class, you can try to find another professor that you can sit in on their class and do the laboratory session. But this is something that we're going to have to work on together. Now, I'm going to give you the updated information, but the department chair is actually Chris Allen, and the interim dean is Martha. So I will put this information and update it. I'm sorry, this was from last semester. And those phone numbers. If you have any problem with me, you can always contact them. What I would suggest that you do, though, is if you have any issue with me, I always ask that you approach me and we sit down and talk about it. My purpose here is to try to be the best instructor I possibly can. And for me to have the environment in class to be as laid back, easy, and comforting as possible so that you feel comfortable in class and learn. My sense of humor sometimes can be a little crude, and I try to be as aware of how people feel as possible, but something that may offend you may not offend me and vice versa. So I don't actually know unless you tell me. And so I found out most problems people have are with miscommunication. So I just always ask that you keep the communication open and that you come and sit down and talk to me. Because if you would contact the dean, you wouldn't contact the department chair because they are not my supervisor. It's actually the dean. If you contact the dean, she's going to ask you first and foremost, have you talked to Dr. Brazier about this? And if you say no, then you have to have a good reason. Well, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel this, that. Either way, she's going to talk to me about it and then find out what I say about the situation. And then we're going to have to come together at some point and actually talk about it if it warrants those steps. So I've never had that actually happen. And I think it's because I always stress the idea of open communication. I'm not going to be offended or upset if you tell me I don't like it when you do this or you do that. And I'm going to ask you, well, if you don't like this, what would you suggest? Because the best way I can learn is from suggestions. And then from there, I'm going to try really hard. If it's something after we talk that we agree, okay, this needs to be changed, I'm going to work really hard along with you working really hard together to fix our problem. So just keep that in mind throughout the semester. So this just reiterates all the different point values, and just to kind of stress here, I don't give you your grade. I just assign them. And basically your grade is a whole semester worth of effort. So I give you these assessments up here, or assignments, they are otherwise called, and then you do them. And how you perform on them is essentially what your grade is. And then at the end of the semester, I add all those assignments up. And then I say, okay, if you have between 900 and 1,000 points, you have an A. If you have between 800 to 899.9999 points, it's a B, and so on and so forth. I don't round up because I give small portions of extra credit, and I also get a small amount of bonus on your exams. Because of that, I don't need to round up. You can either have the 0.5 chance of rounding up, or you can have a total of about 10 extra credit points. To me, the 10 extra credit points are well worth doing versus the rounding up. Now, if you get 899.999 points and you have the extra credit, I don't round up because you wouldn't have had that if you wouldn't have done the extra credit. So please just keep in mind to work really hard all semester, because you don't want to be on that line. You don't want there to be any ambiguity about your grade in your own mind. So I don't give them, I only assign them based on how hard you work the entire semester. Make sure if you want to withdraw this from this class that you do that. When we go on the tentative schedule, I'll show you where that W date is. If you don't officially withdraw on your own, you may receive an F in the course, or you will receive an F in the course if you're failing. A lot of times throughout the semester, I point check. If you noticed earlier, if you score below a 50 on multiple tests, I may withdraw you from the class depending on if I think you're going to pass or not. Having an F on your transcript hurts you more if you're trying to get into a really good school or really good program than having one W. Now, you don't want to continually withdraw from classes because there is the 6 drop rule in Texas that says after you've dropped 6 courses, then you're required for out-of-state tuition. So make sure that you're not getting to that point. But we will have a discussion if you are in the 50s on whether or not you should stay in the class. And you have to prove to me at that point, for me to allow you to stay in, that you are going to do something different. I don't have this policy because I'm trying to essentially hurt or harm any of my students. It's actually the contrary. I'm trying to make you aware that you are in jeopardy of failing and what you're doing isn't working. So we essentially have to come together, 2 heads, to figure out what we can do to get you to pass. And then I'll keep kind of moderating and looking at what you're doing to make sure that we're in a positive direction. If that's not working, then essentially we're going to have the conversation about dropping. You can go through all of this other stuff. This is standard in the syllabus on your own. So make sure to read this whole syllabus. I know I'm going through it, but you need to read it really, really well because you will have an exam on this in your lab class. Now, I'm really big on academic integrity. There's only a few things that I really value, and one of those things is honesty. And it's important that our system promotes both personal and academic honesty. And so with this in mind, if I find out that you're cheating in any way, there are a few things, and they're all determined by me. Or if it gets to that point, the academic dean, and I will report you if I have to. But there, you can get additional assignments imposed on you in a class. You can receive a 0 or an F on an exam or assignment. You can receive an F for a whole course. You can be kicked out or withdrawn from the course or program, or you can actually be expelled from the college system. I don't think you understand, or a lot of students don't really understand how academically, I guess the word be life-changing it could be if you are caught cheating. I know they can have mini trials where they determine guilt. And this can be placed, especially, I know this happened a few times at University of Houston when I was a TA there, that students were trying to cheat. And it was placed on their academic record and they were expelled from the college. So it's very, very serious matter. So you should already nip it in the bud and don't even try doing it. Now, another thing I'm really big on is respect for each other. So with that being said, just these kind of standard things, unless you're using an electronic device to help your academic progress, turn it off. If you have an emergency or something like that at home and you know you're going to get a text, just come up and let me know before class. Like, hey, Dr. Brazier, my kids are at home. They normally don't stay home by themselves. And so I'm going to check I could check my cell phone every once in a while just to check on them and so on and so forth. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem if you're staring at your crotch almost the entire session and you're laughing and you're smiling and you're talking about what you're going to do in the weekend, because honestly, you're distracting the people on both sides of you. You're distracting me because I can see it. The room's not very big, and it completely defeats the purpose of you even being in class, because cognitive scientists have already done the research. You can't do two things like that at once. It totally makes everything you're doing in the class, it voids it out. So just keep that in mind. If I can tell that it's happening, I will warn you. I'll allow you to stay in class, but please put the phone up, or please stop watching ballet during class. I actually had a student do that, and other students reported them because it was distracting them while they're trying to learn anatomy and physiology to see some woman jumping across the screen. So I'll tell you to put it up. If it continues to be a problem, I'll just ask you to leave class and you won't get credit for that day. During exams, I ask you to put all electronics up, nothing in your pocket, nothing anywhere. Because if you want to go to the bathroom or something of that nature, I've actually had people try to sneak in the bathroom and look answers up. And so I know how it works. If I know that you had your handheld device on you in the bathroom, you'll just automatically get a 0. So make sure you keep those in your bags. And this is the Princeton University study that I found about taking notes on your computer. That's why I tell everybody, print out your PowerPoints, because it's already noted that taking notes on a laptop doesn't work. I've had somebody actually personally have this experience. He was taking his notes. I was teaching an introductory chemistry class. He was taking his notes every week on his computer after I specifically told him not to. He still did it. He's a grown-ass adult. I'm not going to do anything about it. He was older than I was. I suggested him not do it, but he didn't listen to me. He kept making 30s on his exam. I finally told him, print out the notes and take handwritten notes. He went from a 30 to like mid-50s. You might be saying, hey, he's still failing, but he almost doubled his grade. And he kept doing that. So, and every time he went up a little bit more. So I can't tell you and stress enough, use paper and pen, because you're using more than 1 sense to learn something. You can't allow friends, spouses, or children in the class or the lab due to insurance reasons, so please keep that in mind. And the biggest thing, don't be rude, disrespectful, confrontational, or inappropriate to anybody. That includes me, but that also includes your fellow classmates. If someone asks you for help, be a good Samaritan. Help them. You never know when they may need to help you back, right? Sometimes it seems like people just don't understand, and you tell them 100 times and they still don't understand. That's what I do for a living. I understand it can be very stressful, but just keep being gracious. And if they can't get it, maybe suggest they come to me or suggest they go to somebody else. But never be rude. There's no place in it. It's already hard enough, this class. We should be more like a family, being nice and cordial to everybody. You don't have to like everybody in the class. Hell, you don't even need to like me. That's not my purpose here. My purpose here is to make the learning environment conducive to learning. And however I need to do that is what I'll need to do. So if I perceive that you're being inappropriate, confrontational, rude, or disrespectful at all, I will take you outside. We will have a conversation. And if I cannot get you to stop being that way, I'll just kick you out of class and we'll be done with it. And you essentially could meet with a college judicial coordinator, and you will not be allowed back in the class until I say it's okay. And so there will have to be major changes at that point. I hope it doesn't get to this point. I've not had anything like this happen basically at all. So keep that in mind on how just treat people like you would want to be treated, or better than you would want to be treated. If you're 504, make sure to give me the paperwork. And again, all this other stuff, please read through. FERPA, I will not release any information about you to anybody, even if your parents call me. So please tell your parents not to call me. Campus carry, you are allowed to campus carry if you have your concealed handgun license in the lecture class. Just to make sure you are not allowed to campus carry in the lab class. There are explosives or explosive material in our lab class, so you're not allowed to bring anything for which can cause an explosion. So if you have your weapon on you in class, I will basically have to call the Lone Star Police Department to have you escorted from the class. So just keep it wherever you need to keep it, but don't bring it in class. At the end of the semester, I will ask you to do evaluation and you will get a few points for it. So we were closed the first week of school, so there weren't any activities due for there. This is September 4th, the week of, so in lecture class, we are going to be going over course introduction. This is what this is, so you're going to watch it online. Unit 1 is introduction to what biology is. That's chapter 1. So if you see up here, it tells you what the lecture is and the chapters associated with it. Does the same here. The laboratory and the exercise or handouts here. So, for instance, Unit 2, Life, Chemistry, and Water, this is Chapter 2. So if you look, most of the time they're one chapter, but if you see here, next week, Organic Molecules, you'll be reading Chapter 3 and a small part of Chapter 15, pages 296 to 298. So as you go through, you'll notice things are all over the place. So keep that in mind as we go through on what chapters you should be reviewing and reading. Now, when you come to class, I'm going to provide you step stool handout. So we're going to be doing Lab 1 and Lab 2. We're going to be doing exercise 2.3 in here. So that's what we're going to do for the first week. And then in class, I'll actually kind of verse you more on what to bring next week and so on and so forth. And I'll do that at the end of each class. What should you bring next time? What should you be aware of for next class? For the first 2 to 3 weeks, and then after that, you should be well-versed in the class to do it. And I will print this out for you to sign when you come to class on Thursday. So I am now officially done. This took way too long, right? With the class. So if you have any questions at all, please just let me know. See you tomorrow.